Yeah, camera's crooked. I'm off to a great start. This is going to be one of those videos. All right. Oh, look, and I'm trying to get the... see? Doesn't matter. All right, what is up, Internet? I am Taylor. It is February 23rd, 2022. Time is a fiction. It stands still. It moves quickly. It does whatever the hell it does. But one thing is for certain, and that is New Comic Book Day. And this is my stack of new comics I bought this week. And I'm going to review them. And as always, we start with the worst and end with the best. That's how I roll. Because I like to give you something to crescendo towards, something to aim for, something to get your blood riled. And I don't know, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's just how I do it. Other people do it in reverse. Some people just say the favorite book and then go by company. It is what it is. We all have our own style, people. And speaking of style, that's this book. It has some style. Look at that segue. This is Distorted #1 by Salvatore Vivienzo and Gabriele Falzoni. There is not much to this book. It's also got a really distorted title because it's distorted. Get it? Get it? It's distorted. And the excitement on this cover is about as exciting as this issue gets. It's not very exciting. There's not much that happens in this. Near as I can tell, it's like there's people that are getting powers all over the world, and they're kind of dangerous, and somebody's going to get sent out to investigate it. And there's one kid that probably has powers. I just spoiled the entire damn comic for you. I'm sorry. I apologize. There's just nothing that happens in this issue. It's just it's a non-issue. It's a one-sentence synopsis. It's stylistically, it's okay. The art is decent, although there's some really weird panel choices that just confuse things rather than help explain things. And yeah, it's just there's nothing here. It's like, how do I even talk about this? It turns out I don't. All right, next. We have Bolero issue #2. Another Image. This is from Image Comics. It's Wyatt Kennedy and Luana Vecchio. I liked issue 1 of this well enough, and it was like this woman thinks her entire life is a mistake, and so she makes a deal where she can travel across all these universes a finite number of times and jump into different bodies and try on other lives, but can never go home in her quest to be loved or find love or whatever. Both, I guess. Well, I think there's a difference, but and this is the start of that time jumping. It's a mess. It's just a jumbly mess. I get that you're supposed to get the fact that it's all jarring and there's different things and like fear of commitment and life choices and yada yada yada, but it's just not told in a very good way story wise. It's just kind of hops all over the place. Anyone old enough to remember Quantum Leap, where you're trying to the guy jumps into different bodies and like fixes things in an episode? I get that that's not this, but that story at least made more sense than this. This is just kind of a hot-ass mess. It does kind of resolve itself by a little bit by the end of this issue, but I'm not going to along for this ride. At $6 an issue, I just don't give enough of a shit. It's well illustrated. It looks very cool, and I dig the kind of like pale pastel-y palette in here, but the story's just got to make some comprehensive kind of sense. I might read it in a graphic novel kind of form at the end or trade paperback. Maybe. I don't know. It's pretty low on the damn list. Okay. Next, we have by Jacquemin and Motz and translated from, I'm not sure what other language, French, I'm guessing. This is The Killer, Affairs of the State. Okay, so let's take everything like contract killing, hunting down political people, all that fun stuff. Let's take everything about that and make it the most boring goddamn possible comic. This is a killer who's has to force to work a corporate day job. Somehow he's gotten caught and now has to work for the government. And then it's just like an issue-long exposition dump about the philosophy of killing and whether or not somebody should be killed. There's no actual killing. There's no actual anything in this book. It's just a corporate doldrums, corporate day job boringness, and it's presented in a very boring manner. It is a dull comic. I like the illustration. It's competently illustrated. It is just very boring. And like it's just wordy for no real reason, and like the pseudo philosophy they're kind of espousing, it doesn't really do much. There's just, yeah. Next, okay. Now this one, I was waiting forever for this one. I really enjoyed the rest of these. Orphan and the Five Beasts by James Stokoe. I still liked it. It's still gorgeous. And this is just a one big fight scene, basically. What they all kind of have been. It's wrapped around some kind of like slim sort of narrative that really doesn't really get expounded upon a whole lot. It's just giant martial arts fighting and weirdness and wackiness, and that's, I mean, this cover kind of explains all of it, sort of. It's just kind of, I was expecting a little bit more on this one. The fight scenes, while cool, were kind of jumbled in places, and it just felt a little hurried, even though this book's been delayed forever. And the end of it all, I paged through the end a couple times. I'm like, did I miss some pages? Like, because it's a very abrupt kind of ending. It's got a little bit of humor to the ending, which I get, but like, there was just nothing after that. No actual resolution of the main arc. It's just really kind of done. And I expected at least a page or two of wrap up after that, and there just wasn't. And it's just, I don't know, bizarre. It's still, when it strikes as when Stokoe is on the top of his game for the illustration, which he is in a lot of this, it's gorgeous. I love the palette. I love kind of the weird wackiness of it all. But it's just kind of, the ending really just threw me on this one. I'm like, oh, that's it, I guess. Okay. And then I looked and checked out the solicits. I'm like, oh, no, that's the last issue of this. I thought there would just be something else after what happened at the end of this one. I really did. There's not. All right. Yeah, we're going to go in this order. We got Dark Ages #5, Tom Taylor. Ivan Coelho. Yeah, this has been a fun mini-series. It's not important. It's not whatever. The lights went out in Georgia and everywhere else on the planet because Stephen Strange had to shut down all the electricity because of something in the middle of the world. It makes it doesn't make a ton of sense. It doesn't matter. And this is just steampunk adventures. And, you know, Apocalypse is being evil in Apocalypse, and they're all trying to stop Apocalypse from being evil Apocalypse. And then there's Venom and Carnage. It's just not a whole lot happened to progress anything in this issue. I think we're getting close to the end of it all, and it's just kind of like, all right, just wrap it up already. I mean, I think I'm just getting impatient. And it's just, seemed like a filler issue for the most part. So... had some fun moments, but it's just kind of, I think it'll read better when it's all said and done. And yeah, just read it when it's all said and done. All right, next. Silk #2. This is competent. We're hitting the fine portion of this all, and this is fine. I don't hate it. It's like Silk trying to be Silk and live a life, and it strikes a lot of familiar Marvel character beats. You get the main character who's struggling in her day-to-day life, trying to balance everything else with the superhero-y stuff. And then you kind of get a failed attempt to live said life and a bad guy. It really, seems very formulaic. It's not awful. It's not bad. It's just kind of not at all surprising. Like, at all. Like, at all. And another one that is not surprising at all, but I think it did it a little bit better, and I think it actually had a little bit of, like, more homage to the 70s Bronze Age horror goodness and stuff, was Ghost Rider #1. This is an extra-sized issue where if you read the beginning and you can't figure out what's going on at the end, you've clearly never watched any kind of Twilight Zone or Outer Limits, or you've never read a comic before, because it telegraphs all the beats in here. But I mean, the art is cool by I'm not sure the first name, the last name is Smith, and it's got potential, and it ends up how you expect it's going to end up. It's just kind of, they could have done this in like 3 pages and then moved on with the actual plot. It's just they stretched this thing out almost interminably long. It's like, come on, just get to it already. Get to the part where, like, we know what's going to happen. Just get there. And it's fine. I liked it better than Silk because I like the art better. So that's about where we're at on this one. All right. Are we going to do this? Yeah, I'm mixing things up a little bit. On the fly, people. That's how I roll. We have Silver Surfer Rebirth #2. I did not mind this one. I liked it. It's a throwback. I mean, it's to like feels like it's a part of the Infinity Gauntlet kind of saga, or that era of comics. It's written by Ron Mars, art by Ron Lim, so it's like the Rons are having some fun in their old playground, and you get Silver Surfer, you get Thanos, you get like them interacting, trying to figure out what's going on, and like they end up having to sort of, not to spoil it, but like you can. It's a Marvel comic, so they'll fight and then they'll sort of maybe team up in an uneasy alliance, possibly. And there's a hidden bad guy, and like you learn some stuff. There's a reveal at the end. It taps all the familiar beats, but it does it in a more like wearing it on his sleeve kind of way than the other two, and it is decent. I like the art quite a bit. I didn't hate this story, but I think from here on out I'm just gonna read it when it's collected, because it's just not a lot of since it is such a familiar thing, and this is one of those things Marvel's been doing, where like untold tales of the past, where you get these old creators to come in, and not old, but like creators that used to work heavily in Marvel, and like revisit their old creations and go back to that era. And that's what this is. It's just not covering a lot of new stuff here on purpose, and it's just kind of for me, it's a trade weight from here on out. So. All right. If you were to lick this comic, you'd probably trip balls. Department of Truth number, whatever the hell. What is this, 16? Yeah, 16. Guest artist, sort of guest story. I mean, this is one of those, whenever there's a guest artist on this book, Tynan just sort of tells a tangential story that's kind of off the main path, but sort of ties in, and that's this. This is, I think, Lee Harvey Oswald in the beginning, although it's hard to tell. It's another competent issue of this. It's fine. The art is just wacky, wild, Kool-Aid style. I hate Ashbury. You get weird, trippy conspiracy theories. You get all this kind of wackiness. It's just, it's starting to suffer a bit from Tynanitis. Oh, look, Tynanitis. It sounds like a real thing. It needs to start going some damn where. Like, there needs to be some kind of, like, thing that actually progresses the plot, and this is not this. This is just kind of like everyone's eyes are awakening to what might be the truth or might not be the truth, and like alliances are shifting. You learn maybe good, maybe bad, maybe evil, but like have a plot in this kind of thing and go forward and do it at a little bit quicker pace. It's been glacially paced for the past 15 issues. This is no different. It is a fun enough issue. It's just not going to change the world, and you can actually probably skip this and like still sort of have some idea what's going on in Department of Truth, although it's a kind of a hot mess of a story. Anyways, all right. Next, we have Step by Step number 1, written by Cy Spurrier, art by Bergara. This is a silent comic. Kind of reminds me of like a video game Shadow of the Colossus meets Mobius's Airtight Garage. There's really no dialogue that makes any sense here. It's just a journey of a strange little girl that wakes up, and then there's a giant beast, Colossus kind of beast, that's traipsing her across the land and ordering her about. It's not bad. Turns out I like Cy Spurrier a lot better when he's not writing dialogue. But as opposed to, say, the sound issue of the G.I. Joe 21 or the Mobius Airtight Garage, there are just panels in here and full pages where I'm like, what in the goddamn hell? And you have to like go back and keep reading it to try and figure it out, and like visually reading it, because there's no dialogue to help you. There are some gorgeous spreads in here, and it's a gorgeous book when it's gorgeous. But there's also like tiny little sliver panels, and the artist's choice or the writer's choice, I'm not sure who. It's just like splitting all this stuff up is a means of passing the time, and I get that. It's just, instead of like telling a coherent visual story, they've sort of sacrificed that for some style and some little breakneck inset panels. I think it would be much better served if they just had it a gridded layout, stuck to the grid and told the story, and then had the splash pages. That said, there's some coolness to it. There's some gorgeousness to it. This one I probably actually will pick up when it's all said and done. I don't know how many issues there are, but there's not a lot to this story, and I get that nature of that silent story tends to be that way. But I like this. It's a hard one for me to like really say. It's just like, I just wish there was a little bit clearer in some of the panels and some of the story, because like I got a little bit lost in the middle of it, and I had to like find my bloody way by taking the next bloody step forward, or I don't know, something. Yeah, we're gonna rearrange these a little bit. Yeah, yeah, okay. Next, we have yeah, we're gonna go this way. Robin, number 11, Al Williamson, Josh Williamson, yeah. Melnikov on the art with a Simone DeMaio cover. This is a lot of fun, this book. And it's still continues to be a lot of fun. It's a solo title, technically Robin, although no, he's getting this sort of team of miscreants that he fought on Lazarus Island, and now they're sort of doing a teamy uppy thing to like hunt down people. It's not going to change the world. It's not going to like really probably do a whole lot, but it's a lot of fun. And that's kind of how I feel about all of Robin. Like it started off as like a Mortal Kombat style tournament. We're sort of past that, but I got to feel like we're like going to go another round of it or something similar soon. I could be wrong, but it seems like it's heading that direction. And I'm along for the ride on this one. I don't love all of Josh Williamson's stuff. I don't dig his Crisis works that he's doing a whole lot, but I do like his work on this title quite a bit. I like some of the other characters addressed. I think he probably should have been the writer for Teen Titans Academy. I think it would have been a much better book because I think he sort of has more of a handle on the sort of how to write young characters without pandering or without making it just incredibly dull. So, it is what it is. There's another book in here down the line that still does it, I think, a little bit better, but Robin is fun and solid. All right, yeah. Next, we have Black Hammer Reborn number 9. Caitlin Yarsky is back on this issue, thankfully. I think her art helps us quite a bit. This is Jeff Lemire, colored by Dave Stewart. Letter by Nate Picos. Yeah. This is Black Hammer is Jeff Lemire's homage and love letter to all things superhero comics, and this is sort of like a crisis event, for lack of a better word, is happening in their Black Hammer Reborn, and like you learn in this issue, sort of what has caused it, and it's an interesting cause. It's not. Again, by the time you're at the end of it, you're like, okay, it makes sense. It's not gonna like probably shock you a ton at the ending, but it is a lot of fun again. And Jeff Lemire is just enjoying this universe, and I'm enjoying this too. I like it a lot better now that Yarsky's on this issue. I like her characters. I would love to see this as an animated series along the lines of Invincible or something like those. I think it'd work really well, but I don't know if that'll ever happen. And I'm enjoying it in this medium as it is. I don't necessarily need to see things translated into the big screen or the small screen or the laptop screen or whatever the hell, phone screen to dig it. If you're not along for the ride on Black Hammer, I wouldn't start here. It's not a good issue to start. It's not even the Black Hammer Reborn is probably not the greatest place to start. I'd start way back at the beginning with the original Black Hammer. I don't think this is quite as solid as that. Because I think that the Dean Ornstrom's Jeff Lemire combo was almost impossible to beat, and I think that original tale of the Black Hammer is a tough one to top. But this is in the same playground, and it's a lot of fun. All right, next. Remember when I said there was a book that did teen drama better than Robin a bit? Yeah, we have Strange Academy. I feel like I'm repeating myself every time I review this, and I probably am. But it's a fun issue. It feels spot on voice-wise. You care about all these characters, and you understand sort of the melodramatic moments of it. Scotty Young is really good at writing an entertaining, like school setting drama, and Humberto Ramos's art fits it very, very well. We're getting towards the end of this arc, which is like the semester, I guess, or the season, and there's turns, there's twists in here. There's spring, winter dance. There's letdown. There's heartbreak. There's fun. It's got the right tone to it. Like he's got Scotty's got like a light touch when it comes to writing this. It's not overly dialogue heavy. It's not overly exposition heavy. It's just kind of like a breezy, airy read. And if you've not checked it out, you're probably pretty. I mean, this is what issue number 16. So you got a ways to go. You can probably find these all collected, or read them digitally. You're not gonna be disappointed by Strange Academy. It's fun. All right, next we have the weirdest one to make this. Well, they're all kind of weird this week, but My Date with Monsters number 4 by Paul Tobin and art by Andy McDonald. This might have been actually higher on the list, except for Andy McDonald's art in here. Feels very stiff, and especially when he's drawing the humans in this book, and I don't dig that. Like it's just kind of like some of the anatomy of the humans and stuff feels weirdly jerky. But it's a ridiculous concept, a odd as hell story that shouldn't work, but I still think it does. This woman has to find true love, or the world's going to be invaded by monsters when people dream. It's a wacky ass idea, and it is. Again, this should not make sense, and I don't blame you if you're not reading it. But I'd say give it a try when it's collected at the very least. It's all going to depend on the next issue. And Aftershock does this. They'll do 5-issue chunks. And what I really hope happens is it's done after 5 issues, or has a solid ending. Because if this does not stick the landing, the whole thing is going to be not worth it. And I know you can say that about any story, but I think it's especially true in this case. And Aftershock has a tendency to like do these 5-issue arcs and let the writers sort of have an ending, but then like, oh, we'll be back in season 2, so like nothing gets resolved. And this, I think, needs a resolution in the next issue, because if not, it's just going to be pretty disappointing. So, but as it said, I'm still liking this series a lot, and it's been fairly high on my list every week for a reason. And it's just bizarre and shouldn't work, but it still kind of does. My Date with Monsters number 4. All right. Yeah, we're going to do this order. Reride Titans number 2 is the second issue of this. It's sort of Pacific Rim, giant robots fighting giant kaiju. The first issue I didn't love. I mean, I didn't hate it, but it just felt like it was way too like family drama instead of kaiju fighting. And instead of titans fighting, instead of robots, monsters, these giant monsters that are these giant, that are piloted by a family. And like, the first family, of course, like the main character, or this dude messed up, so now this dude has to pilot, and now she has to pilot. And so it's not breaking a whole lot of ground, but it's entertaining. I like this a lot better. I like the art in this. I'm looking forward to issue 3. I think this should have probably been issue 1. I think they could have like pasted a little bit better and chopped off most of issue 1, because it didn't really add a whole lot. I think it could have like done some different stuff to get it to the part where we're actually fighting and riding Titans, which we're still pacing wise. Not to spoil it, better than issue 1. Getting there. I'm along for the ride on this one. I do think that the art's really cool. I like the idea of the stories, and I like everything in here. It's just not quite my pick of the week. All right, next we have Radio Apocalypse number 2, Ram V and Anand R.K. Rook. Okay, and yes, this is the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine. Kind of, right? The world's ended, or it's a post-apocalyptic, like something's happened to the world, and there's little pockets of humanity left, and there's giant monsters, and or there's monsters, and then there's survivors, and it's at this point that starts to feel like a pretty worn out concept, right? Because there's been a lot of that in the past like year or two. There's been Geiger, there's been Noctera, there's been post-apocalyptic. There's the post. Man, there's been, I can't even think of the names. Well, there's been so many post-apocalyptic stories that have come out. But Ron V's put his own spin on it. There's like a radio station at the end of the world, kind of, and humanity's struggling to stay human and find reasons to keep living, even though something has happened to like destroy it. And then there's like people that have their roles in society, and this touches on a few of them, and it's building up to something. I know that. I dug the art a lot better on this issue. I know it's been a while since the first, but like this, the characters, while still sketchy and while still at some point kind of like vague, especially facially, there's some features, I think worked a lot better. And I think the story has started to ramp up in a nice, fun direction in this one. And even though it is kind of it almost feels a little tropey at this point, it's done very deftly. And Ram V is a solid writer, and I'm looking forward to some impending heartbreak and fun in the next issues. So yeah, better than issue 1. Looking forward to see where it goes. Look, we have 2 in a row. Better than issue 1. Looking forward to see where it goes. All right, next we have Heavy Metal Drummer number 1, and this is probably the most bizarre book on my list. It feels like an underground comic. I think it is an underground. It's from Behemoth Press, and it's art by Luca Vassallo, written by Kiefer Findlow and Emiliano Pliskin. It's trippy. Oh, trippy. That's the second trippy book of the week. Plot-wise, I don't know. Like, it probably is gonna take a reread at the end of it, and this actually might end up trade waiting. But it's just such a fun, bizarre book that I dug it. There's cats that might be taking over people. There's a heavy metal drummer who's sort of in here a bit, doing a lot of drugs, and seeing aliens. And there's maybe an impending invasion. Again, I don't entirely know what's going on in this book, but I really like the art style, and I really like the kind of thickness of the lines and the sort of bombastic, over the top simplicity. And I know though that shouldn't work as a sentence as what I said together, but it just kind of reminded me of some other underground comics, and it's a little bit tinier than a standard book. And I don't know, there's something about this, and I know if I'm reviewing things, I should be able to like put it into words, but the words are failing me on this one, people, and words are hard. I don't know. I like this, which is I get not very useful in a review, but it is what it is. I like the book. It's pretty high on the list. I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. I might collect these individually. I just think it reminds me a little bit of Murder Falcon, just because heavy metal things, and a little bit of Crimson Cage, although it's not that either. It's just its own beast, and it's its own weird. It probably belongs in the pages of heavy metal or epic or the some of these older like 70s or 80s alt magazines where like you just have this little backup story that's a weird as shit, but it's fun. That's kind of what this feels like. It's just not in one of those bigger old magazines that no longer exist. All right, last and definitely not least, we have Saga number 56. I need to read the beginning of the Saga, and so like I don't entirely know what's going on, but there's enough here that I'm hooked. Like I know 55 is like they came back off a hiatus after like last month on 55, and it's Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. I love Fiona Staples' art. I think it's great. I know it's digitally generated. I know it's not for everybody, but she tells a very clean story, and like you're never confused as far as what the hell's going on in the panels, and the characters and the aliens are just bizarre enough that you're like, okay, that's strange and fun and interesting, and it feels like it should be like a wacky sci-fi romp, and in some other genre. And I know I've said that earlier down the list, but I think Saga probably would also translate well to like an indie cartoon kind of thing. It also it reminds me a bit of some of that, a little bit of like Liquid Metal or the was it the MTV show back in the day where they had the creepy crawl Eon Flux and some of that. It reminds me a bit of that. It's more clear than Eon Flux, and there's definitely a plot. It's a space opera, like, and it's a clear space opera. Kind of has a shocking ending to this, and like there's characters that take turns. Where you're like, well, didn't expect that. Which I guess is the whole point of a space opera, right? Like, dun-dun-dun! Get the big reveal at the end, not reveal, but like, yeah, nice cliffhanger ending. Fun book. Hints of disturbingness. If this one, I don't think it should come with a trigger warning, even though it says it in the book. It maybe should have. So take that for what it's worth. But yeah, I'm really enjoying Saga, and I'm going to make an effort to like hunt down the first volumes, either as an omnibus or digitally or something, and read it. I'll probably review it on my channel when I do. I might break it up a little bit because it's a meaty boy at 55 issues, and or the first 54 issues, and we're at the halfway point, I guess, of the story. So yeah, that's my favorite book of the week. I don't want to spoil a whole lot of what happened into it in it, but it's it's just fun. And sometimes comics can be fun and enjoyable, and sometimes they can be incoherent and a little bit bizarre, and still fun and enjoyable. And sometimes they can just have nothing to them and be not so. But all right, that's what I read this week. I'm gonna stop my rambling, get out of here. I don't know. Don't be a dick, even if you're sick of winter. And February is the longest, shortest month of the year. See ya.